Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Annie Cassina, and I'm really excited to welcome you to the Can't Get an, Can't Get an Emotionally Abusive Man Out of Your Head webinar. I'm really looking forward to sharing this information with you because it is the essential thing. Until you can get an emotionally abusive man out of your head space is your own and you can't heal properly. You'll never be free to carry on your own life and be your own person while you've still got him yattering away in your own head. You'll never rebuild your self-worth and be free to make better relationships until you've dealt with that. So it's really important to find out how you can do it. It's not difficult once you know how. It's incredibly difficult when you're simply fighting that voice in your head. So let me ask you, has your partner messed with your mind until you felt like you're going crazy? Are you ready to discover how to get an emotionally abusive man out of your head? Are you ready to learn the simple steps to lasting happiness and peace of mind? Because if you are, then you are in the right place. I'm Annie Cassina, the founder of Emotional Abuse Recovery Now and Recover from Emotional Abuse. I'm a leading women's emotional abuse recovery expert. I'm a writer, a coach, and over the last year alone I've worked with women across 4 continents. And I've also got 20 years of personal experience of hopium addiction, that is, hoping he'll change, and living with Mr. Nasty. I'm someone who actually threw away 20 years of my life in the hope that someone would change enough to make me happy. And of course, it wasn't going to happen. On the surface, it looked like I had everything. I had the nice home, the lovely child, the husband with quite a prestigious job. I had tons of qualifications. It looked really very successful and almost aspirational, but inside my own skull, it was hell. I didn't believe in myself, and so I didn't bother to take care of myself or invest in myself. I just simply thought, well, provided I do enough to make him change, it's all going to work out fine. And unfortunately, since I didn't matter to me, I didn't matter to him, and nobody can ever do it for you. It took me a really, really long time to work that one out. I didn't leave for all the usual reasons. I didn't leave because I thought it was better for my child to have 2 parents. I didn't believe because I'd been taught to be so afraid that I couldn't survive on my own. And also, I had this hope that sooner or later he was bound to change, wasn't he? He was going to have the personality transplant sooner or later. He'd one day realize how mean he'd been to me and he'd change everything, I thought. And the final reason that I gave for not leaving was that, of course, I loved him. And we all say that, and we all really, really experience this intense need we have of the other person and of the other person being nice to us as love. And that's not really love at all. It's more like codependency. We're absolutely hooked on getting that other person to make us feel good. And that other person knows that, and they're never going to do it. So I spent a long, long time looking for significance, looking for my way forward. When I left my abusive partner, finally, and it was really a last-ditch effort leaving. I knew that if I didn't leave him then, I would totally go down. I'd never have the strength to do it again. But I left, and I knew that my journey could never just be about me. I wanted to do as much for other women as I possibly could. Somehow I wasn't quite important enough to do it just for me. And then I certainly didn't know that I could have a wonderful life ahead of me. It was, well, if I leave him, it has to be a little less bad than it is now. The pain won't be so raw. I won't have him being vile in my ear all the time. But I didn't see that I would actually build a life for myself, blossom professionally in ways I could never have imagined, and also find a wonderful partner and a whole rich circle of friends and a life that would have seemed absolutely impossible to me. I would not have believed that I could become a strong woman. And I say this not because this is me, but this is because I think it's a belief that we all have, that we can't change, grow and become strong. And actually, yes, you can. Anybody can. And my gift is for guiding other women along that journey from the emotional scrap heap to thriving emotionally, professionally and spiritually, and doing that really fast. So what I'd like to do is just ask you to take a moment to think where you are now. Are you still with your emotionally abusive partner and wanting to leave? Have you already left but you're still not where you want to be emotionally? You're maybe not as unhappy as you were, but you still don't feel safe in the world. You still don't feel that you can face up to challenges without getting very frightened. You still find that you easily go into panic and paralysis mode. Or are you someone who's still in the relationship and would ideally like to make it last if you could just make it halfway palatable? Where are you now? You really need to think about that. And wherever you are, that's okay. I often work with women whose goal is to stay with their partner, and sometimes that can work, provided they're prepared to say, I'm prepared to settle for things being less bad. It wouldn't be my ideal situation, but there are situations in which it is appropriate for people occasionally. So wherever you are now, that may well be perfectly right for you. So this is a picture of St. Mark's Square in Venice, which is my favorite place in the world, and that is where my marriage proper ended. Correctly speaking, my marriage ended on day 5 on the honeymoon when my new husband stopped speaking to me. Now, in order to be with him, I'd had to make a choice. My parents had forced me to make a choice between him and them, and I'd chosen him. So they disowned me. We got married. 4 days later, we're in Venice. No, we're in Paris at that point, and he totally stopped speaking to me. We have a meal out in a romantic restaurant. He doesn't speak to me. We go to bed that night. He's lying on the edge of the bed. He doesn't speak to me. In the morning, he gets up, dresses, before I'm even fully awake, shuts the door of the hotel room behind him, and there I am on my own, a kid, I was very young, in Paris, estranged from my parents, and seemingly rejected by my husband too. And life as I knew it had come to an end. So I actually tried to commit suicide. I found a load of pills in his wash bag, because I didn't have any, and took them. That evening, he came back to the hotel room and found his bride totally out of it on the hotel bed. I hadn't moved all day. I was too drugged. He got me round, asked me what had happened. He was a physician, and he said, well, you're never going to kill yourself with that stuff. Get up, we're going out for dinner. And we went out for dinner. And I fondly hoped that something would change as a result of that experience, that a suicide attempt on my part, that he would actually clock that his love was really important to me. Unfortunately, he did clock something, and that was that I wasn't going anywhere, and therefore he was free to treat me anyhow he wanted. And I didn't realize that. So my fond hope that things would improve didn't happen, but I realized that I couldn't carry on reacting so dramatically every time he stopped talking to me. What I did instead was shut down, numb myself to the pain. And the problem with that is that when you shut down to one thing, you end up shutting down to everything. And when you end up lying about one part of your life to other people, you know, how's your husband? Oh, he's fine, everything's wonderful. You end up distancing yourself from people. And it becomes a very lonely, very empty experience, and you need that person more. And that's what happened to me. So the true marriage, the marriage with intimacy, connection, love, ended on day 5, really. In Venice, 20 years later, the marriage proper ended, and I was standing in front of that cathedral, and 20 feet or so away was the husband glowering at me. And I suddenly realized that this was the rest of my life. We went back to the lovely hotel we were staying in. Everybody else is in couples. Everybody else is getting on. We're walking with this space between us, not speaking. I know what lies ahead, another night when he won't speak to me. And I suddenly think, if I don't get out now, I will die. And I was terrified out of my wits, but for the first time I was aware enough to be conscious that staying actually was more dangerous and more frightening than leaving. And that's when I left and the journey started. So I just want to see if we can make it clear to you what happens. This is a pair of boots which are slightly uglier than the boots in which I tramp around Venice. Venice is a place where you walk constantly. I do 8 to 10 hours a day walking there. And one time I went, long after my relationship with the husband had finished, and I had this pain in my foot. So I managed to walk in these precious boots because they're the only shoes I have that are comfortable, and I managed to put my foot down differently so that I could walk around the pain. And I did that for 2 days, walking around the pain, developing this sort of limp, before I bothered to look in the boots and see that there was a nail sticking out. And when I did that, I was able to put in an insole and the pain went. Actually, most of us in our emotionally abusive relationship spend our time trying to live around that pain. If that makes sense, can you just put your hand up, please? Does that make sense that we spend our time trying? Yep, it looks like it does. Yeah. So in our emotionally abusive marriage, we live around the pain. The trouble is, for most of us, when we leave that marriage, we're still wearing the same boots. We're still trying to live around the pain. We think, well, if we can just circle it, that's going to be good enough, as opposed to actually dealing with it, doing something about it, so that we are free to move through our lives normally. So the things that he said that are very probably still impacting you are things like you're stupid, you're ugly, you're unlovable, nobody else will ever want you, you're worthless, you're a lousy mother, you're disgusting. Those were his little refrains, and they play havoc with your self-belief. Absolute havoc. come to believe that they are true. So what happens when Mr. Nasty opens his mouth? He rolls out his toxic familiar words and he plays havoc with your self-belief. So you come to believe that you are worthless and old and ugly and stupid and heaven knows what else besides. And that belief, unfortunately, stays with you. You don't walk away from that relationship and suddenly think, oh, I've got my self-belief back. You walk away, and unfortunately, anything that happens, you still say to yourself, yeah, it's because I'm stupid. It's because I'm not very good. It's because I don't deserve more. Not good. There's a lovely client of mine called Jerry, and she left her abusive relationship at the point when her husband was really messing with her children's head. She moved out for their benefit, and everything she did afterwards was for their benefit because she's hugely guilty at breaking up their home, even though it was a very unhappy, toxic home. And she was prepared to trade feeling not very good for the benefit, if you like, of not being with him. Eventually, she had to do something because one of her sons started acting out like his father. And that was the point at which she came to see me. And we worked through her strategy for dealing with this son and worked through a strategy for helping her get over that guilt because she'd paid enough in her lifetime. She really had in terms of suffering. It was time for her to get a life back. And here's what she said. She said, that awful feeling of crushing guilt that was destroying me hasn't returned. My son S, who I asked to move out, is doing well. We're in regular contact and meet up. My younger son C is doing much better now that S isn't in the house, and it is a much, much calmer and happier place to be. Life is on the right track now. I am the happiest I've ever been. I even feel ready to look for a good relationship. That's what happened to Jerry when she got that old nail of self-loathing out of her foot. And another of my lovely clients had settled for a dreadful man, and eventually, having worked through her self-belief and understanding that she really deserved more, she got the Johnny Depp look-alike, which can't be bad, and he was also a super guy. Before she started working with me, she reckoned that if she found someone who didn't have an alcohol problem, didn't do drugs, actually worked for a living, and didn't leer at other women, she was probably getting everything she could hope for. And then she started to raise the bar a lot, and the more she raised the bar, the better the results are. The trouble with anyone who's been in an emotionally abusive relationship is they set the bar so very low that any old frog, shall we say, can walk over it or jump over it without having to try very hard. It's not a good idea. So when an emotionally abusive man gives us his list of negative judgments with us, about us, it plays havoc with our mind, and it translates into a way that we relate to ourselves and the kind of internal dialogue we have. Understandably, when you're in a tough relationship, you end up pointing out to yourself that it's not fair, which is absolutely true. And you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that he treats me that way? And how much more do I have to take? Which is, sounds reasonable. A better question would be, why am I taking so much in the first place? You ask yourself, why am I doing this to myself? Another killer is, why can't I be like other people? Because, of course, I'm the only person in the world who's got it so horribly, horribly wrong and is making such a terrible mistake. You ask yourself, what did I do to deserve this? When will it ever stop? Is it only ever going to be bad for me and then there's everyone else can? And I'd like things to be different, but... And all of these are lousy questions and which beget lousy answers and lousy statements. If you just think about it for a moment, and I want you to take this away and work with it, when you ask yourself things like, how much more do I have to take? You're asking your unconscious mind to answer that question, and it comes up with, well, I don't know, but it could be quite a lot more. You know, it could go on. And that doesn't help you. And also telling yourself, I'd like things to be different, but you're constantly feeding yourself a message that does not help you to change. And all these negative statements, these damaging questions and statements are born of the kind of negativity that your emotionally abusive partner has been feeding you. Can you just put your hands up if this makes sense, please, ladies? Right. Thank you. That's great. And some of you, kindly put your hands down again. Anyone for whom this doesn't make sense? Hands up if you don't. No? Great. That looks like it makes sense. Brilliant. So, oops, where are we? Lovely. I've just, oh, don't tell me. My mouse was having a funny moment. I thought it had given up the ghost for a moment. So your emotionally abusive partner tells you a load of negative stuff about you. The big question is, you act like it's true. You take it on board like it's true. But how do you know that it's true? It's not as if Mr. Nasty is Mr. Speak No Evil, is he? You have no real reason to trust anything he says. From all the work that I've done with hundreds upon hundreds of emotionally abused women, I have yet to find one who can tell me that their abusive partner told the truth consistently, or even at all. They have a habit of saying whatever is convenient to them. Excuse me one moment, I'm just going to have a quick swig of something to drink. Lovely. Fueled on tea like a true Brit. So the elephant is to make you think about what's happened to you. Sure, elephants don't forget, and we can find it quite hard to forget what an emotionally abusive man has said. But that happens because we take it on board as true. What I want you to think about instead is the way that elephants are trained. And the only similarity between you and an elephant is the memory aspect and the training. An elephant is trained by taking it when it's very young and tying it to a very strong metal stake in the ground. The elephant, being intelligent, soon realizes that it can't get away from the stake. So it takes that belief on board. As it grows and grows and grows, once it's got that belief, it doesn't question it. It then becomes possible for the trainer to attach it to an even smaller stake in the ground. So you get a big, powerful elephant with a pathetic little wooden stake in the ground. But the elephant is tethered to this belief that it is powerless, that it can't change things, and therefore it stays tied to that belief when it actually has all the power it needs and more to free itself. And that is where you are. I don't know what your belief is, though my suspicion is that your belief is that you really can't free yourself from this stuff, that it's been such an awful experience, and it's gone on for so long that if you could change, it would be a mammoth undertaking, and it would take you a long, long time. Can you just put your hand up, please, if you think like that, so I see what proportion of you do? Yes, so I can see we've got a few hands that think like that. Yep, a few more going up. Anyone else think it's going to be really, really hard and slow to change and get him out of your head? Okay, that looks like a fair proportion of you. Thank you. In reality, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. It's about learning how to believe in yourself, learning how to let what he said be what it is, totally unimportant. So how do you get him out of your head? There are two really important pieces to this. The first one is to become detached from his opinion, because it is only an opinion. It's his opinion, it's totally misguided, and you don't have to make it relevant to you. His opinion has no relevance to who you are unless you choose to believe that it does. The second piece is all about learning to forgive yourself. The standard thing is when you've come out of an emotionally abusive relationship and your self-worth is in pieces, you turn around and you say, I just want to forgive him and get over it. Forgiving him might be nice or might not be nice, but it's actually asking too much of yourself, way too much of yourself. You want to forgive yourself. You want to forgive yourself for doing something that was so, depends on how you want to see it, naive, self-destructive. Some people see it as stupid, but actually you did the very best you could at the time with the knowledge that you had. You didn't see this man and go, I know he's a really horrible man, so what I'm going to do is to get myself into the worst possible relationship that I can, so I'll suffer as much hurt and humiliation as possible. You didn't do that. You saw someone who was offering you what looked like a good deal. You thought he had a lot of promise, you thought that you could be happy together, you thought that you probably weren't worth that much anyway, and you were quite lucky to have him. Now, you were totally misguided, but you did that in all sincerity, so no blame, absolutely no blame. You need to forgive yourself. The other piece that we do a lot is we get very angry with him and we hate him and we want to show him that he doesn't matter to us, or we want to make him apologize or punish him, and that doesn't work either, because that keeps you hooked in with him. You want to get him out of your head. You want to be free. And Carrie is a 30-plus professional woman who came to me because she was absolutely going crazy. She was desperate to forgive her emotionally abusive husband, and she couldn't do it. As a committed Christian, she knew that forgiveness was what was required of her, and she believed that marriage is forever. Her husband, unfortunately, is a notional Christian. He may go to church, but he's not exactly Christian in his ways, and he has a pornography habit. He's also very, very neurotic, and he's the kind of man who's horrible to the family pet, which is never a good sign. Poor Carrie struggled for years with shame and a sense of self-blame and failure because she couldn't make it work no matter how hard she tried. She couldn't leave, she believed, because she was married. In the eyes of God, she had to stay in this relationship and put up with this misery forever. But let's face it, she's in her 30s. She had a very long lifetime ahead of being with this man whose personal habits did not appeal to her in any way and who was only going to get worse over time. So she was totally conflicted. And we worked together. I didn't try to offer her my solution. My concern was for her to reach... Ah, fabulous. My mic just kicked out.
Welcome to GoToWebinar. Webinars made easy.
This is interesting. Hello. Sorry about that. My mic just kicked out and it's back now. So Carrie and I worked on getting her the best solution that she wanted to her problem. And at the end of that, she said to me that she's more peaceful than she'd ever been in her entire life. She said, I'm doing well. I took a promotion in work in January and I'm thriving in my career. I've also found a lot of joy and healing as I reconnect with friends and family here at home. I have very few emotional wobbles these days, and on the rare occasions I do, they seem remarkably foreign to me, which is a place I couldn't have envisioned being a year ago. I've also resumed working out and eating healthy, and am taking care of myself physically, mentally, and emotionally. I feel more free and at peace than I have in my entire adult life. I can't thank you enough for all your help and support as I have worked to get my life back and truly enjoy each and every day. Carrie reached that point of peace where she could make decisions which were appropriate for her wholeheartedly. And she had all the stuff that her emotionally abusive husband had put in her head out of her head. She was free to be her own person. So what's the biggest mistake that you can make when you leave an when you're in an emotionally abusive relationship? The biggest mistake is treating yourself like the village idiot. You treat yourself like the fool. Nobody else is that stupid, but you believe that you are. Oops, sorry about that. Jumped forward. And the fact is that everybody does it. I did it too, you know, but it's not helpful. You didn't make decisions that are not good for you because you were stupid. You did it because you had blind spots in a lot of areas of your life. And one of the blind spots that came in was with denial, when you tell yourself, well, it's probably not as bad as I think it is, and probably everybody's marriage is a bit like this, really. Has anybody else done that? Can you just raise your hand, please, if you have? Anybody else told themselves, yeah, it's not that bad, and other people probably don't find it much better than that, and it's only because I'm stupid anyway. Yeah? Thank you. So, it's moving on. So there are 4 principal pieces that make it so difficult to get an emotionally abusive man out of your head. The first is mistrusting yourself. You treat yourself like the village idiot. You don't believe that you can make good decisions for yourself. You tell yourself that you're not capable of managing on your own. You tell yourself that he is much wiser than you are. You tell yourself a whole lot of stuff about how pathetic and incapable you are. And that is really, really damaging. The second thing is all the shoulding. there you are, you're in a difficult situation, you're struggling to keep afloat, you're peddling water furiously and getting very, very tired, and along with all of that, you're doing the should stuff. I should know better, I should be able to cope better than this, I shouldn't have done this in the first place, by now I should have left him and done this, that and the other. And it doesn't help at all. All the shoulds in the world only serve to remind you of what's not working. When things are going well, you don't sit down and say to yourself, I should congratulate myself on this. I should feel really happy and start working on that. That doesn't happen. Shoulds are all about the bad stuff. Shoulds are about, this is where I'm falling down. This is me acknowledging there's something that I'm not doing that I need to be doing. Shoulding doesn't help you. Most of the time, if you said could instead of should, it would make a big difference. So if you said to yourself, I could get out of this relationship, I could have got out of this relationship 10 years ago, you'll hear that it wasn't actually true. I should have is about what you think in a fantasy world you'd have been able to do. I could reminds you of what was real and possible for you at any time. Another piece of the puzzle that keeps him in your head is the what-ifing. And we women are suckers for the what-ifing. So the what if I tried a little bit harder? What if I'd just been a little bit nicer and more patient with him? What if I'd given him one more chance? What if I hadn't said this, that, or the other? And when you do that, it all becomes your fault. All the what-ifing is saying, well, actually, it wasn't anything to do with him at all. He has no responsibility in this. This is my fault because I couldn't be better than I was. I couldn't be Little Miss Perfect. I couldn't do everything for him. I couldn't be his mother, his mistress, his fairy godmother. I couldn't do it all. And therefore the fact that he's not entirely happy must be my fault. And the last little piece is that you dismiss your intuition. Now, I speak with a lot of women, I work with a lot of women who tell me that they aren't in contact with their intuition, that they don't seem to have any intuition anymore. And that happens when you deny your intuition. Intuition is a stroppy little creature. When you don't pay attention to it, it gets in a huff and goes off. Intuition told every emotionally abused woman I've ever spoken to right at the start that their emotionally abusive partner was bad news. And they sort of said, no, I don't really believe that one because, he's got nice table manners, he held the door open for me, he dresses nicely, he's taken me to a nice place for dinner, he's got a good job, he looks good on paper, he's good looking, whatever the reasons are, or even, this is my last hope, whatever the reasons are, you dismiss intuition. And when you dismiss intuition, you always find out to your cost that intuition was right. So getting back to you is about getting in contact with your intuition, which means listening respectfully to yourself, which may be a whole new departure for you, and getting the shoulding and the what-ifing out of your head. All about learning to have a better relationship with you. When you get that better relationship, it's amazing how much better your life gets. You have the confidence to do whatever it is you want to do. You feel free. You can have better relationships with other people, and you know you're safe. And one of the things that I've found is that all abused women have this incredibly powerful feeling of being in an unsafe world. They go for paralysis, they go for doing nothing, sitting tight, playing small, so as not to attract bad things into their life. But that's still actually saying, yes, I'm prepared to live in an unsafe world. And the problem with an unsafe world is that even if you try to keep very, very still and not attract bad things to you, you're still not putting yourself in a place where you have the strength to cope and deal with what comes your way, as well as to go out and choose for yourself the good things that you want in your life. And that's a really big thing. So in a moment, we're going to be looking at the next piece of the puzzle. But first, I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes telling you about my how to get emotionally abusive man out of your head permanently program. Because if you are struggling with these negative thoughts, negative feelings in your head, it really is an amazingly helpful program. The reason that he is causing you so much pain is because you are still fighting him. Whatever you fight stays in your head. When you fight anything inside your head, you can only lose because you are fighting yourself. One part of you should have to lose. So let me ask you, how long should anyone have to stay in an emotionally abusive relationship? How long should you have to stay in an emotionally abusive relationship? How long should anyone, including you, have to suffer? Why would you carry on suffering any longer? Really think about it. Why would you carry on suffering any longer? I thought about it and thought about what I would have wanted when I was in that situation. And I do a lot of work with my one-on-one clients around this issue, but I wanted to create something that was affordable for everyone. So I came up with this idea of an affordable, custom-made group program, especially for the people who need hope and encouragement. And what makes it better than the other programs I've ever come across? There's a holistic approach that I always use so that people can understand the past and heal the hurt, and then have all the tools that they need to take on the world head held high. It's not just about healing. It's about knowing how to relate to people in the future. It's about knowing how to build relationships on healthy foundations. It's knowing how to come across in the workplace in such a way that you value yourself and other people value you too. And that can make a huge difference to how much financial abundance you can bring into your life. So who is this program for? It's for women who've left but still don't feel confident, safe and at peace. It's for women who lack this courage to make a decision. It's for women who want to stay but need to find their self-respect so that they can be in this relationship but still feel good about themselves. And it's for women who've moved on but still are haunted by what happened to them and the fears and the need to play small and the feelings of being unsafe. It's starting on Monday, February the 17th, and we'll meet every single Monday for 8 weeks and we'll share 90 minutes together live. I will be delivering my material and there will be plenty of time for your questions to get them answered. Everything is recorded in case you miss it, so you don't have to be there if you can't make it. And the beauty of it is you also have lifetime access to all materials. So you can always go back and listen again and go work through something that comes up. Because you will always find that there's something else that you want, that comes up in another form that you want to deal with. Healing is always like a spiral, and it's great to have the information you need when you need it. So you'll have everything you'd get in counseling or psychotherapy and much, much more besides. You get tools for the rest of your life so that you know how to respond to the situations that in the past you found challenging. You'll get materials you can always refer back to for reference. You'll have strategies for keeping yourself happy no matter what. Life will throw you curveballs, that's the way it is. The better you can deal with those curveballs, the sooner you'll be happy. You'll get unconditional support and encouragement, and I always go the extra mile for my clients. And you'll be working with an expert with a proven track record. How can I be so confident about my program? Because my programs have already worked for hundreds and hundreds of women. Leona was one of those women who came to me initially about feeling negative after a bad marriage, and then we started looking at her business because she was repeating in her business the same pattern as in her marriage. She was working for bullies, and she was working for bullies who gave her as little acknowledgement and financial reward as possible. So we actually revised her whole business plan, and as a result of that, she went from being really broke to having a very healthy income. As she says, working with you has made a massive difference to my income also. Before, I wasn't even earning enough to get by. Less than 6 months later, I'm looking at a healthy 6-figure income. And she's also feeling an awful lot better about herself. But after what you've been through, I'm guessing you hate risk. So I always offer a 100% money-back guarantee with my programs so that you can feel safe. Oops. Yeah. One lovely client I worked with said, since I've been working with you, I feel happier than I ever have before in my life. I trust your tools and techniques because they sure work well. This lady was absolutely fabulous to work with. Whatever tools I gave her, she said, that sounds weird. And she'd try it, and each week she'd come back and say, you know, that's made such a shift. I feel so much better. I found that I can deal with this problem so much better. So your tools are really wacky, but I'm going to use them. So here's how the programs look. We'll be covering everything you need to know to turn your life around. Week 1, we start with the basics. How do I get over it? Where do I even start? We look at how you recover from the hell you've been through, and we break it all down into small, manageable pieces. Week 2 is how to stop thinking about the things he said. This is where you'll learn exactly how to stop Mr. Nasty's damaging words from affecting you in any way. Week 3 is learning to believe there's nothing wrong with me. This is where you learn to become your own best friend for a change instead of beating yourself up, which I'm guessing has been your pattern. Week 4 is a farewell to fear. Mr. Nasty left you paralyzed by fear. This week you'll learn how to remove that fear so you can embrace life. You can have the fear or you can have a life. You can't have both. I know which I prefer. Week 5 is all about an end to blame and self-criticism. You'll discover how to live as a free woman with her own voice. Week 6 is getting familiar with love, respect and consideration, how you can make them the cornerstone of your being so other people treat you right and you do too. Week 7, how to feel good enough in the workplace. Not good enough is a feeling that can cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars or pounds, whatever currency you use. That's why you must have rock-solid confidence in your value. And week 8 is stay the course on your success journey. There are too many trainings where you go, you feel great, and at the end of it you go, yeah, I'm all fired up. But you can't keep yourself on track once it's finished. I absolutely do not want that for you. So in week 8 you learn the tools and techniques, the things that you can do that will make the old bad feelings history. Sorry, that's me clicking nervously. There are things that you can do so that when bad feelings arise, you'll know exactly what to do. simple step to chase away the down feelings as well as doubts, fears and anxieties. And you'll know how to do that in a matter of minutes. You won't have to sit there and wait for those bad feelings to pass, because God knows I've been there and I know it can take a very long time. Just one nugget from these webinars could be worth 10, 100, even 1,000 times your investment. You'll also get a membership to my private Facebook group. So if you have questions or things you want to share, you'll be able to do that. And there are some fabulous bonuses that I'm offering that will help you in every aspect of your life: spiritual, emotional, financial, and professional. You get a free 60-minute one-on-one session with me. Most women who come on trainings with me have a burning question that is really driving them crazy. By getting that addressed and having a good handle on how they deal with that, that leaves them open to get on with the rest of their healing. Getting laser clarity makes a massive difference. Bonus number 2 is an interview with Zach Barfield-Falconer. He is the perfect gentleman. He trains men to be perfect gentlemen, and you'll discover what differentiates good men from bad men. And they're a whole different ball game. They're not like and like. Bad men are a different species, and you need to know what makes them different. Bonus number 3 is Marie-Claire Carlisle. Marie-Claire is an abundance expert and author of How to Be a Money Magnet. And I grill her on what you have to do to create abundance in your life, even if you're at rock bottom. Because Marie-Claire knows from her experience that nobody is in a position where they cannot create abundance in their lives. It's simply a matter of changing your mindset, and that's very doable. Bonus number 4 is Understanding the Man Behind the Mask, your copy of Married to Mr. Nasty. This is your key to understanding who Mr. Nasty really is, so you can forget about the wretched man. Bonus number 5. One of the things that happened to me as a result of being in an emotionally abusive relationship is I got startled and frightened very easily. And when that happened, I couldn't take things on board. And when you start on a challenge, if you start thinking, oh, will I be able to do this? It's easy to lose concentration and lose motivation. And that's not what I want for you. So this bonus introductory training was to help you get maximum benefit from the webinar. It gets you into the perfect frame of mind to maximize your learning. You know what you need to know. You learn how you can learn it easily, and you have all the tools and understanding you need to get the most out of the program. And bonus 6 is a really phenomenal bonus for the rest of your life. It's your crash course in learning how you can get rid of your fears and your self-sabotage in 30 minutes or less, often much less. It's about learning EFT basics, that's the tapping technique, to control, change and lift your feelings. Now, I know a lot of you have probably used EFT before, but it's a tool that you need to use in the right way to get the best result. And what I teach people is how to use it in the way that I use it to really explode fears and change mindset in no time flat. There's a client I was working with recently, lovely, lovely Olga, and she dealt with everything with massive stress. We went through a specific way of dealing with that using EFT, and after that she suddenly threw the stress away, became hugely productive and felt much, much better in the workplace than she ever had. So you get the one-on-one session with me, valued $250, the Perfect Gentleman, $47, Marie-Claire Carlisle, $47, Married to Mr. Nasty, $47, the introductory webinar, $97, EFT Basics, and the program itself, valued at $497, which is a total value of $1,082. But the value that you'll have for the rest of your life, that's unquantifiable when you get out of the fear, you get your confidence back, you have your self-belief, you have the courage to go forward and the resilience to deal with whatever life throws at you and feel happy. What's that worth to you? When you join today, you get all of that for just $497. In fact, I want to reward action takers. So when you enroll now, you get a further $60 saving. Oops, sorry, wrong date. You get all of this for just $437. You just have to put the code CH6014 in the coupon box when you click through to the checkout page. You just need to go to recoverfromemotionalabuse.com. That will take you to the registration page and will get you set up with instant access. That's recoverfromemotionalabuse.com/head. So this is your chance to get the support you need for once. You'll be with the right group at the right time, and you'll take the shortcut to lasting happiness. And you just have to go to www.recoverfromemotionalabuse.com/head. So let's look now at the one thing that is guaranteed not to work. It really is. And that one thing that's guaranteed not to work is actually making your life all about someone else. Your life, your healing, and your happiness is all about you. That is how it has to be. That's not being selfish. That's being self-full. That's being someone who has a lot to give, who doesn't have to run on empty. Selflessness is not a virtue. Sometimes we have to be selfless, sometimes it's appropriate to put other people first, but making that the way you live is not a virtue. It's damaging to you. So all of this stuff about as long as so-and-so is happy, I don't care about me, doesn't work. It doesn't work with your children because it ends up putting a burden on them. They may feel guilty, they may feel uncomfortable with it. It doesn't work with an abusive partner because you found that out. It doesn't work with a healthy partner because a healthy partner doesn't want you to be putting yourself last. It doesn't work with friends because you end up exploited as often as not. It doesn't work. Reliving the past doesn't work. Reliving the past, what-ifing, shoulding, and telling yourself what a horrible creature he was doesn't help you to have a life in the present. It doesn't help you to heal. Looking for a quick replacement doesn't work. You can always find a quick replacement. There are plenty of other horrible men ready to crawl out from under stones. But quick replacements usually mean more of the same, and you may well have discovered that for yourself. I don't know. Giving up on yourself doesn't work. The problem with giving up on yourself, just one of them, is that you've probably, I hope you have anyway, got a lot of life left. So why would you want to live it without having any joy and happiness for yourself? People-pleasing doesn't work. You've done it. You know it doesn't work. People-pleasing is a horrendous catch-22. The moment you stop frantically pleasing the people that you've been pleasing, they get annoyed at you. We people-please as a trade. We think that if we do it enough, somebody's going to ultimately please us back. Doesn't happen. The more people-pleasing you do, the less other people feel they have to please you. So please, let that one go. Hating men doesn't work. There are some men who are truly horrible. All of us have had one of those or more in our lives. However, there's no point wasting time hating men. There are just some horrible creatures out there, and there are some lovely ones. The art is to recognize the horrible ones fast so you don't have to waste your time on them. Yeah, And this beautiful illustration of the songbird came from a lovely, lovely client of mine, Louise, who was with a horrible, horrible man. He was a total crazy maker. He was a womanizer. He was a dreadful man. And when I first met her, she was distraught. She felt her life was at an end. She felt she was going mad. She was clinically depressed. And she hated him. And all she did was go round and round in circles in her head. So we spent a little bit of time working to get him out of her head and get her feeling good about herself. And 8 weeks later, she wrote to me and sent me the beautiful illustration and said, "I'm a songbird and I choose to fly," which is a quote from The Woman You Want to Be, in fact. And she said also that I taught her how to fly. Now, she had all the things that she needed. She had wings. She had just forgotten how to stretch them. That may be where you are. You were born with wings. You still have them. It's just about learning how you can stretch them and use them again. And it's not a slow process. It happens fast. So this really is your time to shine. That may be hard for you to believe if you've been living in the long shadow cast by an emotionally abusive man. It may be pretty incredible for you to believe that you have a light, that you can shine. But the truth is, you can. You still have that light. It never goes away. Even if you don't think you have a hunger to have happiness and joy in your life, you do. You really do. Even if you think you don't have any dreams left, it's just that you've numbed yourself to them. You haven't dared to dream them. You still have those dreams. You still have those hopes. And you still have the time to make it happen. Nobody is ever so broken that they cannot heal and be whole. And as I see it, people who have not lived their dreams, people who have not lived their abilities and their potential, as you probably have not for all these years, when you actually open yourself up, allow your light to shine, allow yourself to stand in the light, you'll be amazed how fast things turn around, how much more creativity and more happiness you find than you'd ever have thought possible. It's just about allowing yourself. There is this potential that has been repressed for so long. When you allow it out, it will blossom really, really fast. That has been my experience with all the women I work with, and I believe that can happen for you too. So if you're ready to let your potential out, to shine, to have the happiness, and to have the peace of mind and silence in your head that will allow you to have the life and the happiness you want, just go to www.recoverfromemotionalabuse.com/head, and I look forward to helping you find your peace of mind and get that man out of your head permanently. Oops.